I'm handing over the complaint.
Thank you, Mini. I've been working with you for a very long time, and we have had differences. It's still not resolved. And instead of talking about the relationship between the translator and the writer, which he very humorously said between, it's like a husband and wife relationship, jokes apart, I would like to talk about the politics of translation. When Tamil writers and Indian writers began to be translated into English, it was always seen as a kind of a promotion. They're being promoted into better readership. So what would happen is that there comes a hierarchy between the translator and the writer. The translator is kind of standing above, and she is picking you up from this Tamil pit and raising you. And then she is presenting you to the world. So there is that hierarchy all the time. And Lakshmi Armstrong was the first person who translated me and then brought me to the English speaking readers. And I've had my differences with Lakshmi on the basis of this politics. What is this politics? This politics is not taking your writing through which you cultured another culture. It is actually making your writing into a consumable product should be to be taken to the English reader. So sometimes we use certain metaphors and all. Lakshmi used to say, the English readers won't understand it. So I said, what do I care whether they understand or not? Let them struggle a bit, you know. You can't hand over your culture on a silver platter and tell them, here it is, please consume it. That's not the way translation should be done. Another thing is that, when we read translated works from France, from Russia, from Germany, so many writers, even English, like Shakespeare, nobody who could not do things for us or gives us, like when I was about 10 or 12, I must have read about champagne. I didn't even know how to pronounce it. But I knew that it must be some exciting drink, Nobody wrote a glossary saying, or not did they change it into kallu or something like that, so I can understand it. Because I'm expected to understand everything that's given to me, because it's flowing down to me. But when my stories are done, they are being raised to the level of this rare English readers or any language readers. Yesterday, Mini made a reference to Bible being translated. It's a very good reference, but there is also a great difference, Mini. The Bible was translated not to take the Bible culture to another culture. It was translated to propagate a religion. So when you propagate a religion, then you see to it that your target audience accept it within their culture. So you make it part of their culture. So translating Bible is very different from translating literature. And so long as this hierarchy remains, even if you humorously say that it's husband and wife or whatever, so long as the hierarchy remains and there is no equity, till then the struggle between the author and the translator will exist. Yes, we want to take our culture to another country, but they should receive it, not trade it. It's not being traded. So that respect must be there. Once I attended a translation conference abroad in UK, and a lot of translators came and authors had also come. The author's job was just to read out a passage from one of your stories. And then the translator spoke about how difficult it was to translate, and this particular word, how much I struggled to arrive at it, and all that. Nobody spoke from the author's side. And I told him, why have you invited me for this conference? Because the authors haven't spoken at all. You seem to be forgetting that there is a politics to translation. And once I remember when I was in Chicago, I'm a very close friend of A.K. Ramanujan. And A.K. Ramanujan was in the University of Chicago. So he told me, while you're here, why don't I translate one of your stories? He's a very fast translator. Overnight, he translated one story, and next morning he told me over the phone, Lakshmi, come home. I've translated your story already. And I went. Raman is not used to anybody objecting to his translation. He's a great translator, but he's also a good friend of mine. I read the translation. So I had used a word called Murugan, and the wife is telling the husband jocularly, you're a Murugan. That means you're a toughie, you're a gunda, So Raman has the influence of Sanskrit. So Murugan in Sanskrit means idiot. So he wrote here an idiot. And then I had spoken about the vehicles in Bombay. Murgathanamaga odum vandigal means violently moving vehicles. He wrote idiotically moving vehicles. So I told Raman, is it wrong? He said, wrong? What do you mean wrong? I said, yeah, it is the wrong word. You got it all wrong, I told him. He said, come on, I can't be wrong. I said, wait. So I rushed to the library, and there is a Tamil dictionary there. And there was a word, Murgam, and Murgam is violent. There was a word, another word, Murgi. It's a very stubborn woman. So I photocopied it and brought it and showed it to Raman. Raman said, Murgam means violence. And this Murgi, that's me. You cannot change my stories. He laughed and he laughed. But even a translator like Raman, he felt that he cannot be questioned. And once I remember that the municipality of London had invited me as a writer. And of course, they had invited me because Lakshmi Armstrong had recommended my name. The previous day, Lakshmi had made me stay in a friend's house. And Lakshmi enjoys South Indian food a lot, but she doesn't often cook at home. So I started cooking for the two of them. And she said, wait, we can do all that later. Because the program was Lakshmi in conversation with Lakshmi, you see. So she said, can we go through the questions? She told me. So I said, why? You're going to ask me about my stories. I'll talk about them. She said, you see, this is an audience that has bought tickets for the show. So, you cannot talk in your usual way, that you have to use a proper English and you have to speak little politely and all that, she told me. So I told Lakshmi, I can't change, it's too late for me to change. So I'm going to talk just like this. And the audience, how much they paid for the ticket, they have to accept me the way I am. So you just ask me what you want. I'll answer, I told her. She said, okay. But when we went and sat there, I found that Lakshmi's hands were trembling. She thought I was really going to spoil the show, and that I'm going to talk things that the audience may not accept about colonialism and things that she was so scared. I told her, don't be scared. I'm only speak what is the truth, Then I spoke about how English readers want everything easy, If I'm talking about muruk, they want muruk explained, They want idli explained as a steamed pancake and things like that. We are reading about all this French food, which we don't know, we have not tasted them. And we don't mind, we read it and we pass on. I said, let them do that. I said, let them also struggle a little, And also let some secrets of the culture, let them remain. Let them find out over time, Everything need not be understood immediately. Like music, when you listen to it, Western music, you don't know so much about it, at least I don't know so much. But it does something to you. It touches you in a particular way. That's what translation must do. Translation must not explain everything word for word. There are some words, for example, we come from a tropical country. So when someone touches us with a cool hand, it's nice. But when I write in English, I cannot say cool, I have to say warm hand. So that kind of even climatic changes are there. Those things I can understand. But in order to make your story easy to understand, if you're going to change even the trees and you're going to explain food, you can't footnote the culture. It's not possible. The other person, the reader, must make the effort. I'll say one small thing. Once, in the last book that Lakshmi did, I must say that despite differences, Lakshmi and I had a very good working relationship. And finally she'll tell me, okay, I'll do it the way you want, like Minnie. And so I had written in one of the stories, I am someone who believes in the body. So I said that everything that we see outside us, the trees and the flowers and everything, that's the extension of our body. So Lakshmi said, instead of the body, can I write the self? I said, no, you can't. The self is very different from the body. It contains the body, but the body contains the self, you see. I said, you can't write self, you have to write the body. She said, English readers won't understand it. I said, just too bad for them. I said that the Tamil readers understood it. English readers can't understand. Are they such idiots that they can't understand what I'm trying to say? She said, no, unless you really explain. I said, then they are bad readers, you know. Don't do that story for them. So she finally wrote the body, but she also wrote a long explanation in the introduction that the mail exchange that we actually quoted it and said that certain things are there because I demanded. And in one of my early stories, Peter Mulayil or Chamalai, a kitchen in the corner of the house, I'd used the word Vedic kobam, that means important anger, you know, just 2 words and a sentence. She said that, can I remove it? Because it doesn't seem necessary. I said, you are only a translator. You can't tell me what's needed and what can be removed. And in another story, I talked about how girls are raised and boys are raised. You know, boys are told that you're going to take up a job, you're a man, and things like that. And girls are told that you're the person who is going to take care of the house. You're a homemaker, you're a girl. So she told me that all this English readers already know. So can I remove that whole passage? I said, the story is based on that passage. So if you remove that, what remains? You know, you can't remove it. So from the very beginning, we have been discussing these differences in the way we translate as equals. The moment the translator assumes a higher position, I feel it's bad translation. The author can't be dead before she's dead. She has to remain alive. And that will be my stand on translation always. Because nowadays, when so many translations are coming, the condition that the other publisher makes is that I will choose the translator, and the author cannot have anything to do with the translator. And the author cannot even see the translation. Why? Why is it so? The author must die after writing it over. When I was studying in JNU, I did a diploma in Portuguese and Spanish. So I can understand a little bit of Portuguese and Spanish. At least I can make out whether it's true to the original. So one of my very close Spanish friends, she lives in a beautiful island surrounded by the sea. And the sea is green there. And the story ends with blue-gray sea in my story. But she had written Verde. Verde means green. So I told her, Alejandra, you have written Verde. It means green. She said, my God, because that's how the sea looks outside my house. So these things we can make out when something is left out. And also there are enough people who know Spanish, French, and German in India. We can have them check the text. They don't want that. They feel that the translators on our own, some of the writers don't even know who the translators are. I don't like that kind of hierarchy. I feel when you have that kind of hierarchy, then the literature is lost. Sorry for taking so long. I thought you would let me talk otherwise.
No, that was quite an expression of soul feeling about her work, of course, and author's works. Just one point of this English or Western seeking for explanations. Ours is a much more exotic and layered culture for them. They want to know. And that has been, their approach has been anthropological. If you look at all the early East India Company and then colonial, everything is footnoted. Look at Grierson. Anybody done anything like Grierson? But so that's they want to know. And so our translators feel they have to interpret, not just carry a sort of, not just an echo, not just a Xerox, but an interpretation.